Hey, Divine Ones. Welcome to another Wellbeing Wednesday where I share with you something I've learned in my own healing journey, and maybe am still learning as well, about how to be well and live deliciously as a soul having a human experience. Today, I want to share something with you that was probably one of the most pivotal and transformative and profound things that I've learned in my journey, and that I don't hear many people talking about. And it's especially important to you if you are trying to heal something, whether you're trying to heal something in your life, but especially if you're trying to heal something in your body. This particular thing is going to be a key to doing that. It's a key to positively transforming that thing in your life and in your healing journey. And that is the acceptance paradox. The acceptance paradox basically says that anything that we accept will change. That and why that's a paradox is what we are taught and what we believe usually in our cultures and in most of our paradigms is that when we accept something, it doesn't change it. That in order to change something, we need to fight against it. We need to force it. We need to physically be pushing against it in some way. But that's actually not how things really change in our world, and not especially how they change for the better. And so I want to share with you a story that really taught me about this paradox, and then give you a little deeper knowledge and teaching into this so that you can understand how to approach the practice of acceptance in your own life. So if you're new to me, my journey really started in 2004 when I checked into the hospital with what I thought was the flu and ended up getting diagnosed with several life-threatening illnesses and two terminal diseases, which were AIDS and kidney failure. And then doctors gave me 7 days to live. Well, using everything I understood about the law of attraction at the time and creating my own reality, I was able to fully heal my body within 3 months' time, and was being called a miracle child. And I thought I knew everything about what it really took to really be well and live well as a soul on earth. That was until I found myself back in that same hospital a year and a half later, with the exact same diagnosis to the T. And instead of 7 days to live, this time I had 48 hours. And on my deathbed this time, I had what's called a near-death experience, where I kind of had an experience with the other side and was told the key to true healing and experiencing well-being, basically the key to being well and living well as a soul, having a human experience, was to love ourselves. That after I got that information out of my near-death experience, that started a multi-year journey for me, where I really learned. It was kind of what I call a masterclass in well-being and understanding how to truly experience well-being, not just feeling healthy in my body, but living very well and living deliciously in my life through the practice of self-love. And what I learned through that practice not only transformed my life and radically transformed it, but radically healed my body as well. And embodied me with a level of wisdom that I didn't see being taught mostly anywhere. And so that's what I do now. I share the wisdom that I gained from my journey around how self-love is the key to experiencing well-being and how to experience a more delicious and well experience yourself. So this part of my journey was in the first time. It was the first time I got diagnosed and was on my deathbed. And what happened when I was diagnosed and I was given 7 days is I had this kind of rallying of the troops, if you will. I threw everything at trying to heal. I was like so focused on healing my body. I went raw vegan. I was doing vision boards. I was doing affirmations. I was meditating and visualizing for hours a day. Even though I was bedridden in a hospital for a month, and I was doing most of this, in the hospital, and I was constantly trying to heal. And one of the things they did to try and prolong my life, even though they told me they didn't think they were going to be able to save my life, was they put me on dialysis. And so I was receiving dialysis treatments 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, actually I think it was Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I hated dialysis. One, because they had to, in order to give me dialysis, they had to put a catheter in my chest, and one, that hurt. Two, it wasn't. I didn't feel sexy with that, and that was already an issue. You know, if you've watched me before, you know, feeling good about myself and feeling attractive in my body was a part of my trauma, and so I was wanting, and I didn't want to be ill. I wanted to live well. I wanted to be healthy, and so I was trying every day to heal. Every day, I was doing something to try and heal myself. And when I used to go to dialysis treatments, I was so pushing against it. I did not want it. As a matter of fact, I hated it. And not just because it was draining and it made me tired, and because of the catheter. I felt embarrassed. I didn't feel sexy. And when I would go to dialysis treatments, I was so trying to not be in that moment. Like, one of the things I was trying to do in my healing process was constantly flood myself with images of being well, and constantly tell myself how well I am and everything like that. So when I would go to dialysis, when they would roll me into dialysis, right, I would not look. Like, when they would start to put me on the machine, I never looked at the machine itself. I would not look at any of the other patients in the room where in whatever room we were in receiving the dialysis clinic. Now, the rest of the patients, they were talking to each other, they were laughing, they were having experiences. I did not speak to them. I didn't look at them. What I did the moment they put me on the machine was I put my headphones on, and my headphones, I would usually listen to some type of healing meditation or some type of spiritual teacher speaking about how we can heal and be well. I would have my headphones on, and I'd be reading this a spiritual book about healing. And I just would not. And whenever one of the reasons why I wouldn't do it is I was like, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want to like see this and get this in my consciousness and then solidify this, in my belief systems, in my body, that I'm sick and that I'm on dialysis and this is my life. This is not my life. I'm a well-being. I'm going to heal. And that was my whole approach to this experience. And, I was doing everything I knew at that time. I was 24 years old, and I was already on the spiritual journey. I've been on my spiritual journey for about 4 years, and I was doing everything I knew and understood about how to heal and create reality. Again, I was doing, the diets, the manifestation tools, the meditations. I was receiving energy healings. And, some of that, I was seeing some benefits from some of that, but I hadn't really received a massive healing or a very tangible result in my body. I wasn't seeing anything really drastically change in my kidney function or in my immune system or anything like that. And I remember this, and so this was going on for about 3 months. Right. So this is from January 1st, which is the time this happened. So it's going on for about till March. And I had just had a surgery on my arm because they wanted to put a fistula in my arm. So instead of the catheter, they wanted to use my arm to draw the blood out. And I really, really, really did not want this surgery. Because I would see people that had the fistulas and their arms had huge scars on them and deformed. And you can see actually right here is where the scar was, right here. And so I really, 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 really didn't want that. And but I finally just kind of gave into it and went ahead and had the surgery. And it was the dialysis treatment right after I had the surgery. So I was in the dialysis chair, and they weren't using my arm yet because it takes about 3 months to use the arm. But they were still, using my catheter in my chest. And I was sitting I had just put my headphones on. I was getting ready to open my book, and my soul spoke to me. It was very clear. It was a very deep, centered voice that came from within me. And it said, what if being on dialysis is supposed to be the rest of your life? What if this Because again, what the doctors had told me was I was going to be on dialysis for the rest of my life. You can't heal your kidneys. That's not possible, right? From the Western paradigm, their belief system was, I cannot heal. This is something that your body is going to be dealing with for the rest of your life. My approach was basically, hell no, fuck that. I'm going to be well, and I'm going to, if I have to go to war with this, I'm going to go to war, and I'm going to make myself well. And so when the voice said, what if this was the rest of your life? What if this is going to be the rest of your life? Can you still be at peace? And can you find happiness? And when I heard that voice, what I realized was that what I was doing, the approach I was taking, I wasn't at peace. I wasn't at peace. The approach that I was taking was, this was the enemy. That this particular, that this disease I was experiencing was an enemy to eradicate. I was pushing against it. I was forcing against it. I was fighting it. And I wasn't at peace. And I also wasn't even at peace in my life because I wasn't present in my life. I wasn't fully accepting what was happening and showing up in my life. I was constantly living in the future instead of being here right now. And what I decided was, even if this doesn't change, I deserve to have peace, and I deserve to find joy, and not to always think that my joy and my peace is in the future. I deserve to find it right now. And so what I did was, I can remember it like it was yesterday, and this was almost 15 years ago. Actually, it was 15 years ago. I took my headphones off really slowly. I closed my book. I took my blanket. There was another thing. I used to have my blanket almost put over my head so I wouldn't see anything. I took my blanket down and I looked. I looked across the room at the other patients that were there. I looked at the dialysis machine next to me and I accepted it. Meaning I stopped making it wrong. In my head, I said, if this is my life, then it is good because it is mine. There's nothing wrong with it. This is just the experience my soul is choosing to have, and I will have joy even in this. And I began to look at the dialysis machine again, and I began to finally, for the first time, appreciate it for what it was doing to clean my blood while my kidneys could not. For keeping me, not just keeping my body experiencing health, but also saving my life right now. I began to look at the other patients around the room and I said hello to them. For the first time, I said hello in 3 months and had a conversation with somebody next to me. And I began to feel, when I began to accept this, I began to feel a deep peace come over my being. That's how you know you've actually accepted, by the way. When you've actually accepted something is when your energy field is at peace. And so I began to feel this deep, deep, deep peace in my being around this. And when my dialysis treatment for that day had finished, I went home and it was the most peaceful sleep I had had that day in all those 3 months. I was really at peace and I knew, okay, if this is my life, it may not be what I had preferred for myself. And it may not be what I had wished for myself and had vision for myself, but this is what it is. And there's still joy here. And not just a diminished level of joy. There's still an abundance of joy here that I can find. And I am not diminished from this. There's nothing wrong with this. This is my life. And something that happened in this particular experience was the very next dialysis treatment. So I think this might have been like on a Wednesday or a Monday. So the very next dialysis treatment that I had, which I think was a Friday. Actually, it was a Friday. So that treatment was Wednesday. This treatment was like a Friday. And I may be getting the days mixed up, by the way, but just know it was the next dialysis treatment. And so the very next treatment that I came on. I did not bring my headphones. I didn't bring a book. I was completely present. I was like, I'm just going to be in this dialysis experience and for this treatment, and just whatever this treatment brings, I'm here for it. And within about 20 minutes into my treatment, after I had gotten put on the machine, about 20 minutes into my treatment, my doctor came and For kidney patients and people who are receiving dialysis, your doctor will come to see you on dialysis about once a month. And so he had come, he decided this was his day to come, and he had come, and he was not scheduled to come see me this day, by the way. And so he came, and he had some labs work of mine. He was looking at my lab work, and they had just drawn the lab work that week. And he was looking at my lab work, and he said, "Oh my God." He was looking at my lab work. He was talking to me about the things, and he came to this one thing, and he said, "Oh my God, Jerome, your kidneys are back functioning. Your kidneys are back." And he made a decision at that moment to take me off of dialysis, and that I was no longer going to need dialysis. And when I went home, as I was riding home, I had this big awareness that it wasn't that I had healed, right? That my kidneys had healed, and that I was off of dialysis, this very thing that I had been wanting and praying for and pushing for, that it had happened. And I had this big awareness that, and I knew at a very deep cellular level, that what had changed my situation and that had healed it wasn't all the stuff I was trying to do to force and push and change it. It was me finally accepting it. And this takes me back to that acceptance was the literal key that opened my healing and that changed my situation. And this takes me back to why I wanted to share this with you, the acceptance paradox. Whatever we accept actually changes, because acceptance is one of the foundational aspects of love. If you watch some of my previous videos, if you haven't, go back. There's a video I've done. It's on my page, and it's also on my YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube, where I talk about the frequency of love. And what I found in my journey is there's several different aspects of love. Love is not just one thing, it's several different aspects. And one of the aspects of love is acceptance. As a matter of fact, acceptance is one of the foundational aspects of love. If you think about love as a house, acceptance is part of the thing that builds the foundation, which all of the rest of the elements of love are built on. So when we basically love something, which is what accepting something is, we heal it. We heal it and we positively transform it. But when we don't, when we resist it, when we reject it, one, we're withholding love from that thing, and we're not giving that thing the energy that actually positively changes it for us. Two, whatever we resist in our lives must persist because we're feeding it. Whatever we feed in our lives must stay and it must grow. And even if you not wanting something, even if you don't want it, if you don't want something and you're pushing against it and you make it wrong, and every day you fight against it, or every other day, or you in your mind you keep telling yourself this thing must leave or it must change in order for you to be okay. What you're doing is you're feeding that thing your energy, and it has to stay. But when you love something, when you accept something, one, that drains the toxin, it drains the poison out of your body of rejection and resistance. And then it opens your energy field up to experience love. And anything that you love, one, must heal, because love is the only energy that does heal, by the way. It is the only energy on the planet that heals. And only energy heals, by the way. Only energy heals. So love is the energy that heals. And love is the energy that positively transforms something. So when we accept something, what we're effectively doing is we're loving that thing. Well, accepting something is, again, it's welcoming it into our lives. Instead of trying to push it on the fringes of our lives, it's opening the door. I like to say acceptance is opening the door to the very thing that you most don't want, that you most believe you won't be okay if that thing stays or if it doesn't leave. You open the door of your life to that thing, you welcome it into your home, and you serve it some tea. That's real acceptance. And you know when you've actually done that, when when you're at peace. And anything you accept, you love, and love changes things for the better. Anything you love must heal, and anything that you love must begin to positively serve you in some way. And I've been able to see this in many, many, many different things in my life. I live my life really now from a space of radical acceptance. When something unwanted or not preferred shows up in my life, it doesn't mean that I don't feel some type of, I may not feel sad about it at first, or I may not feel angry about it at first, but I don't stay in that energy. I begin to accept it. I begin to welcome it. I begin to accept it and begin to bring it in. And because this is another thing that acceptance does. Acceptance says this particular experience is not wrong. This particular experience is not wrong. It may not be what I prefer. It may not even be the most enjoyable experience I have, but it's not wrong. And there's nothing wrong with me for having it. And when we have that particular, when we come from that energy, we are embodied more of the energy of love, which is the energy of our soul. And the more we are at home in the energy of our soul, the more things just heal and positively begin to transform for us, especially your body. So if you're out there experiencing, and this goes for anything, this goes for not just things in the body, this has happened for things I've had this same experience in things with my relationships, things in my work, things with my finances, whatever I have begun to accept, right? And again, acceptance doesn't mean you don't prefer something different. It just means that you're not pushing against what's presently there. You're not fighting against it. You're not pushing against it. You're not making it wrong. You make peace with it. You make peace with it. Because whatever you make peace with must make peace with you. And so that's again, acceptance is an act of love. And so when we love something, it begins to love us back. When we accept something, it begins to accept us back. And so if you're experiencing a health challenge, one thing I would really encourage you to do, because a lot of times, especially in our paradigms that we are in the West, when we experience some type of health challenge or illness, especially if it's a disease, we begin to go into warrior mode. We begin to go into fighting it. And I'm not saying that you don't do anything to begin to support your wellness more and to begin to nourish your body more, but that you stop viewing the illness and your experience as an enemy to be fought against. And instead, welcome it in as a friend. One thing I've also, and because it is a friend, you've heard me all talk about this in videos before, illness is not an enemy, it's just a friend coming, literally a soul friend that shows up in our lives to help bring us back home to the love that we are and the love-filled and joy-filled life that we deserve. So when you stop viewing your illness as an enemy, you stop pushing it against it, stop trying to force your situation to be different, and you just accept where you are, and you begin to be at peace in your life and find joy in your life right where you are with all that's happening in your life and all that's not happening in your life, that you just find peace where you are. Watch how your situation changes on its own, without you having to force it, without you having to push it, without you having to make it change. Watch how it positively gets better for you, and watch how your body begins to heal. Acceptance is one of the healing energies. It is one of the healing frequencies. When we live in a state of acceptance, we are vibrating at a frequency of wellness. When we live when we live in resistance and pushing against and running away from, because that's another way we don't accept something, is when we're trying to run away from it or hide from it. But when we accept something, when we fully accept it, we begin to live in the energy of wellness. When we resist it, we are in the energy of illness and dysfunction. Our bodies cannot be healthy when we're in resistance, and our lives cannot work well and manifest our desires when we're in the energy of resistance. Acceptance is one of the key factors in well-being. And so I just wanted to share with you the paradox of acceptance, because what we believe is that when we accept something, things won't get better and it'll get worse. But what actually happens when we accept something is things begin to spontaneously change for us, and spontaneously change in the positive. Love heals all things. Never forget. Much love, you guys. I love you. Now go love yourself.